Hey guys, this is Brett Young, Taylor Young, and Rod Erb, and you're tuned in to the Be Extraordinary podcast with Urban Young. Real conversations about business, leadership, and personal development. We have a special episode because this is specifically for extraordinaires, the ladies and gentlemen that are inside our four walls. Today, we are going to speak directly to you. This is for you, made by you, and an opportunity and a privilege that Rod, Taylor, and I have to shed some light on the most important event that we do every year, which is our Leadership Summit, which is coming up. Today, if you're listening to this, we will dive deep into what that is, where it came from, why is it so important, how to get the most out of it, why it's such a big deal to us and so many inside of this organization. And ultimately, as that time approaches, what can you do to prepare yourself to make sure that when you show up at the summit, you're somebody, and when you leave the summit, you're a different and better human. So today, I'll start off with you guys just asking you a question. For those that have never been to a summit before, the brand new person, how would you describe and what would you say the Urban Young Leadership Summit is in your own words?
Yeah, I think it encapsulates all of our three pillars: showing up, activity, and personal development, in reference to what goes into that event, what it takes to put on that event, the content within it, how we look back on where we came from, how we did in a given year, and then ultimately the vision of the company, the playfulness that exists at Summit, the fun, the lightness, the laughter, right on the side of the depth and the emotion and the meaning and the fulfillment within it, and down to the parties and the themed events and all the contributors that make that event happen. It's a team event, like you said, by the people, for the people, and it just certainly means a lot. I think of a culture. I think it's the ultimate. It's kind of the pinnacle of our culture, and it represents everything that we believe in an event.
Good thoughts. It's awesome. What's been speaking to me about it lately is just reminding myself what business we're in. And as a personal development company that happens to sell insurance, when we say that to either the new person, the seasoned person, the future recruit, and if that fires you up, and if you take that step and you join the team and you integrate into the team and you pour into the team and you come to it with a curiosity and a hunger for what that builds up to, the summit to me is being able to quantify everything that you just described, but it's a reminder every year of what you're a part of. To me, it is, as you said, it's our biggest event. It's our Super Bowl event. It's powerful. It hopefully and I would say this, right? We talk about the summit looks the same every year from an outline standpoint, from a system standpoint. But each year you go there, it should be a little bit different because you've hopefully grown inside of this vehicle of a personal development company to where it's almost a recalibration of, I was at this summit last year, or I was brand new. I made it to my first summit. I left. I wasn't the same person. I go through a whole year kind of, riding the sail that was set at the summit, and I'm fired up to come back again and just see how I've changed. And yeah, I know it's a little long-winded, but I just get fired up thinking about the fact that it is the proof. It is the quantification of who we are and what we stand for. So whether you're brand new, whether you're not yet here, or whether you're somebody that's seasoned, that's been to 1, 2, 3, 10, 12, this will be our 13th summit. Hopefully it's just it is that to everybody.
Yeah, good thoughts. Yeah, for me, I think the summit is this, it's the pinnacle of someone's growth path for the year. That's what, if you're listening to this, I would just say, whatever growth trajectory you're on for the year, when you set out in October, it's different for every person. All of us are in different seasons of our professional lives. All of us are in different seasons with our personal lives. Some years are really hard. Some years feel easy. Some years are about, some sort of challenge that we have. Some years are about getting to the next level. They all look the same. I feel like every single year of my professional career and personal development career has a different heading, has a different title. But what's special to me and what I think is so powerful about the summit is it's at the end of the year with whatever path you've been on. It is this ritual type experience that allows you to come in and leave different. So whatever work you've put in on the front end, to me, that is like it makes it all real after you leave the summit. And we do that through, it's a very themed event. It's done through a storytelling. It's an immersive event. It's an experience. So it is a transformative personal development and professional development event, but it is only as special and is only as transformative as how much somebody has put in for the whole year. Mm-hmm. Some people get a lot out of it because they were on that path the whole year, and this is just the icing on the cake, and they get this huge experience. Some people haven't been on the path at all, and maybe they're brand new. They don't even know what the path is, and they come in, and that just leaves them curious to get on the path. So I think it's different for every person depending on where they are in their season. But for me, I think it's just like, imagine, climbing up the hill, up the mountain, and you get to the summit, and the steeper the climb, the more beautiful the view. But all of us leave that event with a different perspective than when we showed up, more connection with the people around us than we had when we came in, and maybe a little bit more depth and curiosity to see what's possible for ourselves if we're willing to put in the work on the next year.
I love that. More connection with the person, more connection with people once we leave there. I really like that.
Yeah. I also thought about like the new person. I know at least when I see people that are at their first summit, a lot of times it's just about seeing the big picture. It's about seeing the vision. It's about building relationships that aren't within your specific office. Maybe different parts of the business, maybe different markets, whatever it is. There's enough time uninterrupted together where you all of a sudden go, hey, I don't even have this person's cell phone number, and now I'm texting them because we made this connection about whatever it is, right? So I think for the new person, that's rich. But you just mentioned something I never thought about. For the veteran, sometimes there's tears at Summit, right? Well, why are there tears? Well, it's because it just means so much more, right? Every year that we go on this, I find so much more depth in this experience. And usually that's right on the other side of that hard that you mentioned, or the frustration or the challenge. And I often think of it too, like we talked about this, I come from a sports background. I think that way, right? And I think about the ending of a year, beginning of a new year. And I remember after every year, if you have a good coach, you're going to end it. And usually, you lost the game in the playoffs or whatever, is your season over, right? And for our case, it's a little bit different. But usually you have a couple things you want to work on that year. Hey, this is where I stand as a player, and here are the skills I'm looking to stack. Hey, I'm a really good shooter, but I need to become a better ball handler. There's this understanding of endless development as a player, and within our walls, it's no different. Like, I think somebody sets out on a year and they're in a new position. Maybe they're a marketer and they never have been before. They're learning the skill of influence. They're learning the skill of marketing. They're learning the skill on how do I go wide and how do I sort, not convince, right? And then you finish that year, and hopefully you've worked it hard enough that you have that skill. You're now a marketer. What other curiosity, what other skills do you learn? I think this summit's just brings back that kind of off-season, on-season. Give yourself permission to set on a new journey. In the current journey with a ritual that celebrates the work that you did in a real way, but then give your permission to part ways with that former self and pursue whatever that next self or that next skill is.
That's great.
Yeah, I mean, this is like that ceremonial close of the year. Right? It's like you can't just show up to work the next day and you go, okay, it's the close of the year, and now it's the start of the new one. It just doesn't. It's just the emotional charge is not there in order to have a reset. It's just you need something to be able to celebrate, like you said, but also have this closure of this journey that you've been on, right? And I feel like the summit is that closure and celebration for the work that should be celebrated that you've done. That each person sitting in that audience is on a different. It's just a different charge based upon what they've put in, which I think that's cool. There is tears. there's tiers of the experience. There's tiers of importance. You know, I mean, I think if you interviewed some of the veterans that have been here a long time, they'd have specific years that have meant more to them than other years. And they have memorable moments that made a lasting impression on their careers. And that has very little to do with what you will see at the event, but it has much more to do with the path and the journey that led them to that moment at the event. And I think that that's kind of a cool thing for, if you're listening to this, you go, man, you just relax. You know, like you sort of says, well, what's my expectations? I would say come in with no expectations. Come in with an open mind. Come in with the ability to, you know, be a blank canvas and have paint, you know, like come in just ready to receive, you know, an experience, and come in ready to have some fun, you know, and celebrate and enjoy the fact that, man, we work hard during the year. Like the pace at Urban Young is a different pace. It just is, man. I mean, there's just a lot of people that have come in from different agencies and different places, and they're taken back by how fast this is in this environment. And that's kind of the fun. You know, if you're a competitor, you love it. If that's not necessarily your main driver, sometimes that's challenging for people because the pace is significant. But come in with the understanding that we're going to let our hair down and we're going to relax for a second. Like we're going to breathe. We're going to go in and then we're going to exhale out. And when you leave there, you know, you're going to come rested, but you're going to leave exhausted because it's going to be a full immersive experience. So let me ask you guys this. What are the origins of Summit? You know, we just talked about what it is. You know, maybe touch on why we do it. Why is it so important? Maybe we've hit on that a little bit, if you have some thoughts on that. But then also kind of where does it come from, and when did we start our first, you know, has it always been like this? Where does this come from?
Yeah, I think it comes down to the power of the live event that the three of us learned in a past life, you guys more than me, but just how much you can get from a live event, you know, and there's so much that's virtual. There's so much good information right out there. Yeah. But there is this transformational piece that takes that information, blends it with emotion, mixes it with your physical state, and then you can utilize and transform. And that's what you can do within a live event that you really can't do by reading a book, you know? And so that's what we hope to give is that personal development piece through that contextual vehicle.
God, that's so good, because someone says, oh, why is this summit so good? Like, what information do you have? Like, what speakers do you have? Like, what do you do? It's like, yeah, you know, I feel like we do a pretty good job of that. And the content's always rich. Humbly, I think the content's always rich. But that is not the power of the summit. You just said there's a difference between information and transformation. And the beautiful part about the summit is that it is a transformative experience that information just doesn't cut it. We're bombarded with information all day long, all the time. And it's like, that's not going to do it, you know? And so that's a really cool perspective. I've never heard you say that. And I think that you did a really good job describing that. Really good.
Or when I think of origins, it's simple, right? It's like, why do we call it the Leadership Summit? And for me, those origins you referenced way back in a previous life when we first all met, 2006, 2007, first exposed to a leadership summit. I just think to myself, you're either a leader in training, and if you're a leader still in training and development. But if you're not yet a leader, you're here to become a leader. And I think that philosophy has carried us for a long, long time, helping people understand that you're not just an order taker here, right? We don't want people that just want to sit here, take direction, and just get beat up all day. I think even though we may do that to some degree, we take a lot. But I just think to myself, how you perceive yourself coming into this event from an origin perspective, you're an emerging leader. You're a leader in training, a leader in development. That's why it's called Leadership Summit, and that's why so much is put on Me Inc. And obviously we'll get into that, but you know, it's hard to understand Me Inc. if you don't first understand from an origin perspective that you're here to become a leader.
That's so good. It's so elementary and it's so simple, and we don't probably do a good enough job of just making that clear. You know, we talk about growth and development, self-actualization, and all these fancy terms, but if you just boil it down, it's like you're here to be a better leader. You know, lead yourself, lead your family, lead your friends, lead your community, lead your teammates. And so, the path of a leader is infinite. It's always ongoing, and there's always more to be desired. And so it's a great way to simplify that.
And you just sparked something else with that thought, right? You go to a company or corporate event, and when you talk about professional development, we talk about personal and professional, but I don't think that's as mainstream. I don't think that's as common. So you go away to an event, it's like it's more professional development. And it's probably not centered toward the person, toward the individual. It's probably just centered around, well, here are the roles of your job. Here's ways you can professionally develop to do a better job inside your role.
Sure.
I love the fact that we care more about personal development, which will complement personal development, becoming a better listener, a better speaker, a better, a better teammate, a better version of yourself through skills that will transfer into your professional role. Who cares what it is?
Yeah. How to handle conflict, interpersonal skills, how to handle your emotions better, how to be more neutral instead of highs and lows. Like these universal skills. Because I think sometimes we talk about that, but sometimes I don't know if we do a better job of quantifying exactly what that means. And there are these universal skills, how to become a more pleasant human being, right? How to have a pleasant personality, how to build rapport, like how to make connections, right? How to introduce people and make people feel comfortable and good in a social setting, right? How do you take a new person and make sure that they feel warm and welcome in a community? Like these are skills. And even though they might not be taught from the stage, what I would say to the person is pay attention, because the entire event is a training. The entire event is a training, but the way that people edify each other, the way that you open up on stage, the way that you prep, the way that we structure things, the promotion, the way that things are the surprises, the way that somebody interacts with a new team member versus a veteran team member. There's just the way that we do breakouts. There is a big time. The biggest lesson I feel that's immersed in the summit is the experience in and of itself, not what you'll get on stage.
Well, they say as a parent, right? Things are caught, not taught. And I hope that the event, as you both just said, that you can attend that event and you can catch some of that, right? And when you attend an event and somebody's teaching or they're speaking at you, not with you, you're kind of looking and saying, are they doing that though? Right? And I hope everything about our summit, what you just said, you could maybe not hear a word you said, man, people are treating each other right. Wow. Okay. The people are actually promoting and edifying leadership. Okay. Wow. Actually, people are fighting to get in the front of the room and everyone's got notepads out and taking notes. That's another thing about the training, right? How do you show up to the event? How you take notes and receive information in order to retain information, in order to use that information. That's a skill, right? And I'm hoping that, I think that's part of our brand and the summit is to teach people how to show up to a live event, how to attend an event.
So I'm just going to ask you, how should people, this is such good thoughts, man. You guys, what are some things that you would do to make sure that you show up? Let's go 3 pillars. Showing up at the event, before the event, during the event, the whole event, multiple days. What are some key components to showing up the right way to get the most out of this experience?
I would say, and I remember when we went to our first leadership summit, we attended a call similar to what we have today, how to attend the leadership summit. And that call was centered around, number one, how to show up. You referenced it earlier. When you're in corporate America, you run hard and you're exhausted. So you go away on vacation so that you can get rested. We don't believe that here. We believe get rested so that you can go to this event, get everything you want out of it, and leave exhausted. So I would say, number one, show up rested. Show up ready to go.
That's good.
Rested in the term of you've been preparing, you've been hydrating, you've been drinking a lot of water, you've been getting good rest, you've been getting good sleep, and you're just getting your mind ready to accept all the things that we're talking about here today.
I'd even ask, get a couple workouts in and prepare for that, because you're priming your body to go for 2 days straight.
Certainly incorporate working out, and I certainly didn't mean to leave that out, but I mean, yes, that's absolutely part of the recipe. But then, and again, I'm remembering these calls. It's like I'm at an event. I'm listening to a speaker. I get thirsty. Let me go grab a Coke. Probably not a good choice, right? Go grab a glass of water, get up, get something fresh, get something that's going to feed you, get some protein in you, right? It's like these summits, these sessions go long, right? They're, you're sitting in one spot for a long period of time, and if you're putting garbage in, you're going to feel like crap when you're sitting there, and you're not going to be as sharp as you could be while you're taking notes, and hopefully, taking notes from that perspective of how to take them, how to use them, how to apply them. So that's the first thing I would say is showing up the right way, which doesn't start at the event. It starts weeks before the event.
That's cool. Good thoughts.
Yeah, the preparation piece is big. I think you hit that well. And also when I go to an event and you try to sit in the front, you got your notebook out, you're out early, all the little things, right? Give yourself enough margin. If you're driving in the day of, like, leave an hour earlier, right? Because that level of stress of you being late or not knowing where you're going, if your first time at the event, that little subtlety is going to matter on how you start the event, which is going to perpetuate in how you show up and finish the event. So I would just say, even stuff like get your mind right, pack out, lay out outfits just like you would on any vacation, but more intentional. And a lot of times when I'm at an event, it's not necessarily about the information I receive. It's about the lens in which I receive the information, right? So we just attended an event, and I have pages and pages of notes. And you could argue that a lot of the information wasn't directly to a position like mine, but it's triggering things like right now I'm process. Okay, that actually reminds me of this. So just knowing that if you prep and you know your role and you have your lens, that everything you receive you can learn from, right? You say, oh, well, that speaker's not for me because I'm in this position. Yes. Wrong. They are, because there is something you can learn from that person in that position and that speaker. So being fully engaged in that event and not looking at the agenda and going, okay, what am I going to pay attention to? What's going to matter to me and not? Right. And then what you said, Friday, man, it's packed. We pack it in on purpose, right? Because we want you to come show up. There's been no partying. We're going full day and we're jamming it in. And then we're going to have a blast that night. And then we do a late morning, usually the next morning, because we want you to have fun that night. We want the event to be more than just a classroom setting. We want it to be immersive, playful,
and experience. You just said the Friday night event is part of the classroom, right? Like that's a huge, it's almost as like you think you go to a regular event and like, okay, we're done with session.
Yes.
Yeah, but the event on Friday night is part of session.
Amen to that.
That's a big component. It's like it will carry off. You want to know like what to expect, like what you learn Friday and the theme of that event and what we're doing, it will carry over to that night. It just so happens that we're having an immersive, fun party atmosphere, team community container that we're going to learn it in. But a lot of that stuff is going to transfer.
And it transfers into the event after the event, which is another component of that. But real quick, I want to circle back on something that you said that absolutely matters, that people forget matters. And you said, what are you going to wear? Laying out what you wear. You don't see us showing up in worn out T-shirts and hats on backwards and gym shorts. And if that's abrupt, I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. I mean, because how you show up and how you dress is going to translate into how you sit and accept the information. It's going to translate into how you feel about yourself, which is going to translate into how you take notes, which is going to translate into how your mind gets working when you start hearing the information. So you went by that, you mentioned that, but I didn't want to go by it without putting emphasis on it. How you look when you show up damn well matters, right? Mm-hmm. And even into the next day, right? I mean, we're going to have a lot of fun on Friday. There's going to be drinking. You're going to drink a lot. You know, hopefully you don't drink too much and show up so hungover that you can't put the same emphasis on Saturday that you put on Friday. Yep. Because even though we've got those variables and they're there on purpose and they're there for a reason, it still doesn't mean that you don't have to be ready, looking just as sharp again on Saturday morning, so that you can get back into that mode and you can get 100% out of what Saturday is meant to be.
Well, I think it's important to hit on. I talk about the summit encapsulating who are we as an organization. When I think culture, I think we are a high love, high fun, but high standard organization. There you go. Right? And Brett mentioned to it about the pace within this place. It's no different at an event, right? Somebody said, if you want to be tough at night, you better be tough in the morning, right? That's we are a high standard event. So it's not showing up late and no, we're going to love on you. We're going to have fun, but there's expectations that we have for ourselves, that we have for this organization, that we want people dressed sharp, feeling good, looking good, taking notes, locked in and engaged in contributing to good quality conversation. You know, another thread of these big events that you talk about corporate is like you get a lot of people together and the conversation can go anywhere. Well, this person that department this, that department that. We try to do as an intentional a job as we possibly can with human beings and flaws, and us included, to have good quality conversation. Because guess what? What's that a part of? That's a part of our culture.
That's right.
And the summit's no different, right? So just because it's an event, just because there's booze flowing, just because we're in a different place, we should be influencing those conversations. And I think that's something that in the call on how to attend the summit, that's something we try to make very clear, along with just the basics of safety, responsibility, and so on and so forth.
But because, by the way, that's a lesson. That's a lesson right there. That's a coaching opportunity, is because that's important. Obviously, it's our marquee event, but how we do that should translate into how we do this in the office every day, right? Like that is important to just the perpetuation of a culture that is collaborative and accepting. So the other thing I wanted to share is, get a journal. A journal is a must. Do not show up to the event and use the pads that the hotel puts on the table.
So
that
glad
you
you're
will
saying-
never keep.
I'm so glad
Those
you're
will be
saying
in
this.
the trash can by Sunday.
Do not. You could tell the difference between a professional and amateur. A professional has a journal. An amateur uses a pad of paper. Do not do that. Not because it's because I love you and I care about you. You'll never use it. Again, what is the purpose of taking notes if you don't have the ability to go back and read what you wrote, right? There is something powerful that happens when it goes from listening in your mind, then it goes to the tangible. It leaves that, comes into the ether, it shows up on paper, and now it becomes part of your existence. It's now physical to you, and you have it forever. I cannot tell you how many times I've gone back and I've read journals that I have done from years ago, and they've meant more to me reading them after the fact than when I actually wrote them. Because when I'm in the event, you should be taking so many notes that it's even hard to understand what you're even taking notes on. That's the purpose of taking notes. I'm taking notes because I know that I'm not going to be able to remember all of this content. So getting the most out of the event, go get yourself a good notebook, a brand new notebook, if you would. I have a Summit notebook. And I have journals and different things that are classed, so I can go back and know which ones are which. However your process looks, ask yourself the question, however I take notes this weekend, will I have the ability to go back and get the information that I put down on paper? And if the answer is yes, then you win. You win. Do your future self a favor. The you that's 3 years from now wants to be able to go back and read the information that you're going to get from this weekend. Do not let them down. Don't let that person down, because they need the notes that you're going to take. Mm-hmm. They need it. Don't shortcut yourself at your very moment where you need it the most because you just forgot your notepad, or maybe you just didn't think it was a priority and think it was important.
Since you're on the topic, I think it's important to add in, so you've got the journal, right? You say, well, why would I spend $30 on a journal? Because when you're done writing it could be worth millions of dollars, right? Obviously, there's emphasis put on that, but I mean, that means different things, different people. But if you're listening to this, ask to see mine, Taylor's, or Brett's journal one day. And you'll open it up and you'll be blown away at how neat things are written and how organized the thoughts are, and how it's almost like a storybook, right? It's like the way these notes are. It's not scribble. It's written in pencil.
But why?
Well, because you want it to be. I think for me, if it looks cool and it looks intentionally laid out, I'm more able to go back to it later and follow it and remember. Because it's like, here's the thought, here's the sub thoughts, right?
Well, so one of the philosophies that we believe is begin with the end in mind. If you're taking notes because you're going to go back and read them, you're going to leave yourself enough breadcrumbs to be able to know what the hell you were taking notes from. If you take notes with no sense of format, if you imagine you come back to somebody's notepad, if you can't, you won't be able to interpret what you wrote.
Right.
Well, and by the way, there's studies that will show that regardless, even if you're not organized, by the act of taking notes, you are going to retain the information much better. Mm-hmm. And this is all good stuff because we're getting into how to prepare for the summit. But I think I want to speak to the new person, right? in regards to people that are attracted to Urban Young, there are a couple things that I think about. What does that person value? I think they want to be a priority, and they want to make progress, right? And I believe that they think that this vehicle is a vehicle that allows them to be both of those things: a priority, to be treated with respectfully, the ecosystem, Me Inc., their team members first, and then also to make progress, that they can accomplish their goals. And I think this event is the tangibilization of being a priority, right? Back when we started, we had the event. We had no money, very limited resources, but we had the event. As we've grown, we've continued to pour more resources in as the business has scaled. I remember, we hit tough times in COVID and so on and so forth, hard market, you name it. And a mentor of ours was like, well, yeah, just remember that, the Great Recession, those things came, but then those things, they went away. And then they never came back. And I remember hearing that and say, well, okay, wow, I wonder if that's going to be us. I wonder if we're going to be the group that used to do events and got excited, but now we're big and it's expensive and it's really challenging to throw these big events. Maybe but that's never entered our mind because of the priority part. Because we believe that you, team members, us, are the number one driver to our current success and any future success we hope to have. And so I think that's hopefully understood by the summit is, look, we love to have a good time. We love to theme it out. We love to have a blast. But at the end of the day, it is a priority that you're a priority to us.
One of the things that's really cool. So we just got back from an event, and we had some incredible, humbling comments from multiple people about, half kidding about working together, right? And I think one of the main reasons why that ends up being just a natural conversation, which it's all in fun, is because I believe the infrastructure of what we're doing from a summit perspective of these events, you just can't duplicate it. It's just very difficult. And I want to speak to the independent operators for a second and the team leads. If you're in charge with running an office, the ability to be able to connect into this infrastructure for your team is, you just will never be able to do it. And the reason we know that is because we know what it was like when it was just us in the beginning doing it. But we were lucky. There was 3 of us. That was the cheat code. A lot of operators and a lot of agencies, they're by themselves.
It's lonely, man.
They don't have the juice in the beginning to be able to get that type of fire together to be able to have something like this start. So to be able to get your new team member at an event like this that you didn't have to put on, that's done for you, that's thoughtful, that's done for you in the lens of where you are in your journey, for the very nature of making an impact on the people that you've recruited into the business and are in charge with giving them the opportunity to better their lives, is one of the biggest value propositions I think that we have to offer. And what I am convinced more today than I ever have been is that you want to be in a business that's not a me too business, meaning it is not, you can't replicate it. You can't just me too. Oh, I'll just do that too. What we have built from a culture perspective and what we're building on an infrastructure perspective, that is truly a system of culture to be able to take a new team member who knows nothing and a year later have them be a strong contributor to what we're trying to do, is you just can't rip this off. You just can't me too it. And so for all my operators out there who are asking themselves all these questions of how I can get my business to the next level, there is one answer I would give you above every single answer, and it's make sure every single person on your team gets to the summit. And make sure you are prepared with your team members and prepped, and you make this the big deal and the priority that it is. Because there is no bigger mover in your business than getting new team members to this event, because the event does the work for you. It's important. It's no different for us than it is for you. Our number one focus on putting on the events is to make sure we promote it good enough, we make it more engaging enough, we make it fun enough, and we make it rich enough to make sure that every single person, without fail, does not want to miss this event. So they prepare their vacations around it. They prepare their family trips around it. They prepare the weddings and specific things around it. So because they don't want to miss it, not because it's an obligation, because we know the difference between people getting there and not getting there may be the difference
yeah.
between somebody not making it
Yeah.
and somebody changing their life.
So it's so funny, you guys. I was literally just thinking this in my head. I was thinking leverage. You just spelled it all out. But to the operator, to the person that's building their own business inside this business, it's like that. It's all done for you. Just show up and just.
And we talk about, like our carrier access. We talk about our technology. We're building programs. We've got all these, it's like, but what is the number one value of being at this company? In my opinion, and I'm sure you guys, we haven't talked about this, but in my opinion, it is the system that perpetuates culture. It is the system that perpetuates culture. And the summit is the top of the food chain. It is the marquee number one staple of how do we do that. It's make sure that your team is at this event.
Could not agree more.
Mic
Absolutely
drop.
love
Mic
it.
drop. Well said, boys. Enjoyed that conversation. I can't wait for this year's event.
Oh man, I'm excited. Wildfire, what a unique and special time to be at Urban Young. I'm more excited today than I ever have been. I'm more challenged today than I ever have been. And I don't know about you guys, but I need the summit probably more than anybody else. And so
It's coming fast. It's crazy how fast this year's going.
every year I look at the mirror, man. I say I can't get here enough just for my own development, to be around all the people and all the different markets, to get that energy and know what we're fighting for and what we're a part of. It's inspiring and it's fuel to the fire. So appreciate that. Any other closing thoughts before we wrap up here, boys?
Shake and bake.
Shake and bake.
Awesome. All right, guys, man, get your tickets, be there, be square, be extraordinary. I love that. Bye-bye for now.